Welcome to day 65 of the 77-day video challenge. Today is 13 installments from the end of this project. So Friday, the 13th. So tonight I'm going to talk about luck. One of the first times that I remember ever hearing anybody talk about luck was in the original Star Wars. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. But to most of us over 40, it's still Star Wars. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, in my experience, there's no such thing as luck. That was one of the first times that I'd ever heard anybody cast doubt on luck. That I'd heard about four-leaf clovers and the luck of the Irish for St. Patrick's Day, that sort of thing. But I'd never really given any thought to whether luck was a real thing or if it is something that required some effort. I consider myself to be tremendously lucky. Some people would say, don't think of it as luck. Know that you are blessed. And by framing it in that way, I have to remind myself to consider a higher power, whether it is God, whether it is the energy of the universe that has worked to my advantage. I've heard people talk about energetic attraction, and that the energy in the universe favors you. There was the book, The Secret, that came out about 15 or 20 years ago from the woman from Australia. And I have a story about reading that book. About 10 years ago, I was riding the bus to work. And I was reading that book, and as I was focused on the positive energy that surrounds me, the good fortune, and the power of attraction that one seeks through the practice of this book, and any number of practices, regardless of denomination, regardless of where you stand within the spiritual realm. Just positive energy, good karma, whatever you would want to call it. As I was focusing on that, riding the bus to work, the bus made a hard turn, and there was somebody standing in the aisle, and his elbow hit me in the cheekbone. And I was kind of startled, and I looked, and I was kind of stunned for a moment. He didn't turn around. He didn't acknowledge that I was sitting there. And I have certainly considered that it may have been deliberate. He may have just done this out of spite. And because I was reading this book about positive attraction and awareness of the positive energy that surrounds everyone, in theory, and I think was surrounding me in that moment, even though I got an elbow to the cheekbone, I recognized how tremendously fortunate I was, blessed. The person who hit me with his elbow, I thought, I may have represented every white person who'd ever wronged him. Every person who'd called security in a store, everybody who had refused him a job, maybe in that moment he was able to get some sense of catharsis that he had finally conquered somebody who represented the injustices that had been visited upon him. I realized also in that moment I had a lot of advantages, a lot of benefits working to my advantage. I had health insurance through my employer, so if the situation had escalated, I would have been able to go to a hospital. I would have been able to see a doctor. I could get stitches, get the necessary care. If the situation had escalated, the police probably would have given the benefit of the doubt to the white guy, even if I had instigated the episode somehow. So I recognized in that moment there were a lot of benefits that I had surrounding me. There was a lot of privilege that had settled upon me in those circumstances, and it gave me some perspective. And I knew that in many ways that I could never quite calculate, a lot of luck had visited upon me. But luck is not something that necessarily just happens. I'm reminded of a quote attributed, first time I saw it was attributed to Thomas Jefferson. I am a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more of it I have. That is something that I have to remind myself of, is that there are a lot of things that have gone very well in my life. I'm tremendously privileged. I'm tremendously blessed. I'm outrageously fortunate in so many regards. And yet, I know that it's incumbent on me, because, in no small part because of all of those great fortunes that have visited upon me, that I need to pay that forward somehow. And to be a better person, to be a nice guy, polite, tolerant, patient, understanding, forgiving. And those, especially the forgiving part, that's tough. That's really tough sometimes. Nevertheless, I know that there are great blessings in my life, and I live surrounded by a lot of luck, and it's also incumbent on me to invite in that luck and work for that luck. How do you work to make yourself more fortunate? How do you build your own luck? How do you create your own luck? I'd like to know. Share that in the comments below. Send links to books, to videos. Maybe share a story of your own about something fortunate that has happened to you that reminds you that you have privilege, that you have fortune, and perhaps how you have applied that for the betterment of other people, or how you have made your life better by the efforts to celebrate and nourish the luck in your life. Thank you for visiting for day 65 of the 77-day video challenge, and I will see you on day 66 of the 77-day video challenge.